love him. They love a guy that gives a good speech in Berlin. Good evening and welcome once again to the Marty Heiser Show. You know, it's hot out there. It's really, really hot out there. And I don't know if it's because of the temperature or what is causing me to get a little frustrated and angry, but frankly, I'm not a happy camper this evening. I'm really angry. You know, and I'm letting you in on a little secret. I tend to listen to C-SPAN on the radio when I'm driving around trying to, make a living. I know that sounds a little nerdy, but I gotta confess I do. And I was listening to C-SPAN, and Bernanke was giving his news conference about the economy and what's going on with everything, and it was really bad. And one of the journalists asked him. He said, "Mr. Bernanke, it's been 4 years now, this economic downturn, and it looks like it's getting worse and not getting better. Is there anything that's going to do?" And he said, the Great Depression was only like 11 years. We're almost halfway there. I mean, this economy is just killing me. And then we have Eric Holder, the Attorney General of the United States of America. And he's coming out, and these people in Congress want to know about this fast and furious operation they have. This was cooked up by some brilliant liberals that thought it'd be a good idea is to give a bunch of American weaponry to drug runners in Mexico. And all of a sudden, one of our border patrolmen come up dead. And they have information about this, but they don't want to give it to Congress. In America, unlike what Senator Schuler said, where he said the three parts of government are the Senate, the Congress, and the executive branch, it doesn't work that way, Senator Schuler. It's the elected branch of government, the Congress and the Senate. It's the judiciary, which you left out, and then there's the executive branch. Well, the executive branch is holding privilege over this information and not giving it. But that's not all that Holder has done. Remember Gitmo? He wanted to close that. That hasn't happened. Remember Roger Clemens, the pitcher? He thought that would be a great idea to pay your taxpayer dollars to prosecute him. Remember Jonathan Edwards? He walked. Remember the Arizona voting laws? We're going to find out. Basically, Arizona was saying, hey, all we want to do on this immigration thing is we want to have the same laws that we have at the federal level. We want the federal government to basically enforce the laws that are already there. What about voter suppression? Oh, voter suppression. They dare to ask for IDs. Heaven forbid. They want to look at the voter rolls. Do you know how many dead people they found on the voter rolls in Florida? 53,000. 53,000 dead people on the voter rolls. But to clean that up is somehow voter suppression. Remember the Black Panthers, those guys who were waiting at the voting booth with those clubs? Remember that, the last election cycle? I do. I'm a visual person. I remember those pictures. Hanging out by the voting booth with the clubs. Was that voter suppression? Oh, no. We didn't prosecute that. But let's ask people to have IDs when they go to vote. That's somehow voter suppression. Remember Khalid Sheikh Mohammed? Oh, yeah, you remember that guy. He was a big kingpin. He wanted to have that prosecution right down in New York City. That didn't work out. And now we have Obamacare. Who can forget the lawyers under Eric Holder that represented Obama's case before the Supreme Court, and what a joke they made of it. This Eric Holder, again, it may be the heat. It may be the fact that the economy just went down 250 points. It may be that we're still at 8.2% unemployment. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but I might just be one guy. But I don't think we're going in the right direction here. And then you got this pious attorney general saying that, any implication of me is somehow has to do with voter suppression? Are you kidding me? Nancy Pelosi? Voter suppression? Having to do with the attorney general not turning over documents? I don't know. The whole thing's just got me upset, and just glad I have a TV show so I can vent a little bit. Okay, now we're going to switch gears because I have an incredible guest. Even as he sits there right now, he's saying to himself, what the hell have I gotten myself into? I am a professional, a respected, a nominated international Emmy award-winning documentary filmmaker, and I'm on a TV show with this crazy man. But luckily for us, we have family ties, and he's obligated to appear on my show because, I don't know, it just seems like when your family asks for a favor, you got to be there. But I'd like to introduce my good friend and cousin, aus Deutschland, Stephan Lamby. Thank you so much. First of all, for putting up with my rant. I just have to vent a little.
It's really hot.
I think it's the heat.
And I have to explain why I'm sitting here.
Please do. Why are you sitting here?
I'm on vacation. I'm surprised to be on a TV show, the TV show.
This is a big show.
I didn't even have time to put a jacket in my suitcase.
It's true. Well, you know, you look fine.
So I'm surprised.
Because filmmakers are supposed to be. Filmmakers are supposed to be a little edgy, a man of the people, just wanting to get the truth.
Smoke pot.
Smoke pot. Whoa. Is this live? I think it's live.
Okay.
Okay, you can't smoke pot.
This is the image. I don't.
Oh yeah.
I don't.
Okay. But a couple things I really appreciate about you, and let me just give our vast viewing audience a little bit of background. Besides being my cousin, mein Mutter, Loretta Burfent, is your mother, Gilla Burfent.
Say hello.
Say hello. I think they'll get this. It's going to go all over the internet.
Yeah, sure.
They'll go viral. And so we're cousins growing up together. But you got involved in in German public television, and it started with radio. Give us 30 seconds on how you ended up becoming a documentary filmmaker.
Actually, I started my professional career here in New York City.
Yeah.
After having finished university, I originally wanted to become a teacher, and I changed my mind, luckily. I moved to New York City with my saxophone, and I earned some money by doing interviews with jazz musicians.
Okay.
That was the beginning, and then I got a phone call from Germany.
The Vox, what was it called? The newspaper that you did?
New Vox.
New Vox.
Oh, that was.
Is that New Voice? Is that
New
what
Voice,
it is?
that's correct.
Deutsch? Okay.
And then somebody called me from Germany and asking me if I wanted to join them in putting up a new radio, private radio. One of the first private radios in Germany.
Okay.
And then I got bored after a couple of years, and I started another career in television. And after some years, I put on my own production company.
Okay.
Now I'm a documentary filmmaker and focusing on politics and history and economics.
Well, I'll tell you, I've appreciated, and not just because you're a relative, but I've appreciated your documentary films. We've actually played some of them on the show here.
Did you?
Yes. I don't know if we violated any rights.
You shouldn't tell me.
I know. No black helicopters have shown up at my house to whisk me away. So if you want to sue me, call my representative Dave Strait, and he can be reached in Reading, Connecticut.
Where's the next police station?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure we're in big trouble. But quickly, on the TV show that you did, it was a weekly TV magazine, not unlike 60 Minutes.
Some time ago, 15 years ago.
15 years ago, but in your career, in television, but also in documentary films, you have interviewed, and we're going to get a little bit of this if we can cue it up right.
So you only have a half hour to list them, but go ahead.
Yeah, here we go. Those of you scoring at home, get a paper out. Henry Kissinger, George W. Bush, Miles Davis. If you don't know him, very famous jazz player, big.
No, not big.
No,
was Dizzy Gillespie.
Dizzy Gillespie.
Anyhow, both playing trumpet.
They both played trumpet, but he played a cockeyed trumpet. It wasn't straight da 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 da.
Great sound.
It was more a da 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 da. But he was great. Miles Davis is a jazz genius. If you're a jazz aficionado, you know what it is. George H.W. Bush, Gorbachev, Alexander Haig, Helmut Kohl, Merkel. Who's the Greek guy that you
Georgios Papandreou. He was Prime Minister of Greece.
Okay.
Until just recently, half a year ago, he had to resign.
Had to resign. All right. But I mean, you've interviewed some very interesting people. And by the way, we're also joined by Dave Strait.
Well, yeah, and actually we had to screen him to make sure that that list qualified him to be on this show tonight, Marty.
I think, we have a pretty low bar around here. Speaking of low bars, Larry Ditkoff will be joining us. And if you want to join the conversation, he's going to put the phone number up, 438-2003, 438-2003. Feel free to call in if you'd like. First, I want to queue up this first DVD. They tell me all I have to do is push this. But apparently we're gonna have a specialist. Well, when we put the camera on Stephan Lamby, they're gonna cue this up so that I can play it. Tell me more about your interviews with Henry Kissinger. He's a local politician. He's obviously
a local politician.
Well, I'm saying he lives here locally. I would call him
a global politician.
Okay.
Is he still pretty well respected everywhere? I mean.
Not everywhere, not in Spain, not in Latin America, not so much in France. Very highly respected in Germany and of course in the States.
And you had an opportunity to interview him for your documentary, which we'll have queued up in just a minute, Henry Kissinger's Secrets of a Superpower. How did you find him when you had many, many hours with him doing those interviews?
It was very intense because I did the interview actually in Connecticut in his private house.
Right.
He has a guest house, and we did the interview there over a weekend. And there was guest of the Kissinger family. And
right.
We had to talk about very important political issues, such as what were the CIA actions in Latin America in the 70s.
Right.
The death of Salvador Allende. It's not so easy to talk about these actions many decades ago with a person who has to take some kind of responsibility for what happened then in his private house.
Was he defensive about it though?
He didn't like to talk about it, and then he did. And at the end he said, I shouldn't have talked about Chile.
Really?
He didn't really like it.
At the end of the interview.
And of course there are very interesting things like Watergate, like the Gerald Ford administration, and he was very open to talk about everything like that, but not so much on the CIA actions in Latin America and in Asia at the time.
I think what he was saying was, in the interview, if I recall, he said that there was an election, it was a close election, but then the CIA stole the election, and so they came in with some...
Well, actually, they were afraid of having another Fidel Castro in the backyard of the United States.
Right.
And Richard Nixon was obsessed with the Fidel Castro issue.
Right.
So they didn't get rid of Fidel Castro, and that's why they took, I would say, military actions to get rid of the next Fidel Castro, Salvador Allende.
Here's a little bit of driving up to Henry Kissinger's house and what it went, if we can get a close-up of that. Tell us what we're seeing here.
Well, we're driving through the woods of Connecticut, not very far away from here, actually, to his guest house. We should listen to it for a minute.
Powerful man. How has he changed his country, and how has it changed him? We have an appointment with Henry Kissinger at his guest residence near New York. He wants to talk about his entire life in front of a camera for the very first time. In hard times, America trusts the counsel of wise men. These are special times when their wisdom is sorely needed. Men who have led in times of war. How should the nation react to the attacks of September 11th, 2001? President Bush receives Henry Kissinger. He wants him to help investigate the attacks. For many years, Kissinger was at home here. He made history here.
The president's got to be thinking strategically in order to shape events. And Henry Kissinger's a very good strategic thinker. He's made a career of being a strategic thinker. He's got a mind that works strategically. I see him regularly.
The U.S. attacks in Iraq, a faraway land. The war, a debacle. Should America withdraw? Again, President Bush calls on Henry Kissinger. His counsel, don't withdraw. The U.S. must win the war.
I think you can learn a lot from history. The key is for a president not to get stuck in the past. One can learn from an experienced hand about how to deal with today's current problems.
Well, I'll tell you, I watched that whole documentary. We played a little bit. We were joking about it earlier. But it is really compelling. When I was in the middle of that documentary, I was asking myself, why did he sit for this interview with you? Was it the German thing, or what's going on?
I mean,
because it was not very flattering for him in the decisions
maybe
he made.
it's not so much known in the States that he actually was born in Germany. He was a Jew in Germany.
Yeah.
And he had to flee with his family from the Nazis in 1939 or so, just before the war. He built up an enormous career in the States as a professor, then became advisor of Nelson Rockefeller, and actually a leading man in the Nixon administration. And I have to admit, I haven't seen this documentary for quite a while, and when I just saw it again, don't you see a very strong parallel between what happened in Vietnam and the exit strategy with Iraq and Afghanistan? Again, the States, and by the way, this time Europe, have to ask themselves, how do we get out of here?
Yeah.
This was the situation in '75, and it ended in a mess. So how it's going to end up in Afghanistan?
Now, did he review that before you actually?
No, we never do that.
Okay.
No.
So did you ever get feedback? Was he content with it, or?
I didn't get a feedback.
Okay.
Did you get a Christmas card?
I sent him a letter saying thank you. I sent him the DVD, no reaction. And again, I'm not doing these kinds of documentaries in order to get a thank you from the people I do documentaries about. I'm a journalist. It's not a present for anyone, for Kissinger, for Helmut Kohl, Angela Merkel. I'm a journalist, so I talk to people, I ask questions. I'm doing the same thing as you're doing now with me.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. And just real quick, I want to go through some of the other ones. We don't have the technical capacity. Maybe you can hand that down. But these are some of your other documentaries that you had. City Boy. I don't know if we can get these, Frank, on the screen. But City Boy, this was a documentary that you did about a, well, tell us about it.
Well, it's a London-based investment banker, pretty young, and actually he was son of a Labour Party member of Parliament in London, and he needed a job because he was a hippie.
Right.
And his brother, who had a job,
smoking pot, he made
exactly. He traveled through Asia smoking pot and did a lot of crazy things.
In the Choom Wagon.
Pardon?
Well, that's the Obama Choom Wagon.
Yeah. I have no idea what he just said.
No idea.
Okay.
Just
anyhow, this guy needed money. His brother had a job in the financial city of London.
Right.
He said, I'm going to give you a job.
Right.
This guy didn't have a clue, didn't have an idea of what the financial business was about. He didn't, to make it very simple, know what a stock was.
Right. But he went to the right schools.
He went to the right schools.
And his dad was some sort of lord, yuckety-yuck.
And he made a lot of money in the financial district of London.
Right.
And took a lot of risks. And at the end, he had so huge remorses that he changed his life. But before he did that, he wrote an anonymous column in a London paper.
Called?
The London paper.
No,
the name of the column was City Boy.
Right, okay.
And he wrote about what was happening inside the financial district with prostitution, with coke, and this makes it even stronger, all these financial risks and the inside business in the financial world.
And they would start rumors.
Exactly.
On purpose.
On purpose.
They would say, this bank is about to go under. They've had regulators come in, blah, blah, blah.
All the dirty tricks.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Keep flipping those.
Okay. Well, go ahead. Keep going.
And, well, in the end, for the left-wing part of the audience, he became a hero.
Right.
Because he was one of the very few and one of the very first who criticized the financial district in England.
But then when his true identity came out, he wasn't well well received in some financial.
He got a lot of enemies.
Right. All right. There's a couple others. Let's. I think the one you're talking about is Merkel power. That's the one that you
That's
have an
true.
interest in?
Hot topic.
Okay.
Hot topic.
We want to pick your brain on all of this. Is Germany the only sane country left in Europe that knows how to, save money, and you're going to bail everyone else out?
There are two others, Netherlands and Finland.
Okay. There are two others. So there's three.
Minor countries.
Okay.
Well, Germany, of course, is the most strongest, the strongest economy, and everyone is hoping for financial help from Germany.
Oh,
But
yeah.
it makes it very difficult for Angela Merkel. On the one hand, it's very flattering for her, being
Right.
the prime minister of such an important country. On the other hand, it could sweep her away.
Yeah.
Because the Germans, I mean, her voters, they don't like the idea anymore to pay for anyone.
Well, I remember when East Germany joined West Germany. West Germans weren't all that thrilled about bailing out their brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles in East Germany. They said, if you tear down the wall, the next day we're going to put it back up. You remember, it was 20 years ago or so.
That's true. That was more like a joke. In the beginning, there was huge enthusiasm.
Yeah.
But it turned. It went different after, let's say, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, because the economy was a real
Exactly.
drain.
That's
Now
true.
you're not being asked to bail out East Germany. You're being asked to bail out all of Europe.
But these are not our brothers and sisters. In Greece,
I know, you didn't want to go
in
there.
Italy and Spain.
Brothers and sisters are also a group of nations that agree to abide by a certain degree, a certain economic platform.
By the way, we're joined by Larry Ditkoff.
Thank you, Mark.
Larry Ditkoff went to an Ivy League school, and he's a brilliant, brilliant guy, also in the investment field.
Did my mom tell you to say that?
No.
Oh,
He's a wonderful guy, and he always contributes more or less from the left. Dave and I come at things more or less from the the right side.
You don't have to tell me about
And,
that. You're my cousin. I know you for ages now,
Yeah,
so I know about
we
it.
want to have, free and
Let me say one more word on Angela Merkel.
Please do.
One reason why everyone
Good at parties,
wants,
Angela Merkel. Fun at parties.
why anyone in Germany wants our money,
Right.
is because Germany is making a lot of money with the euro.
Right. With the euro.
With the euro,
Okay.
we are profiting from it.
Right.
That's why we are in the situation to help other countries.
But the German economy is only 1.6 times as large as the Italian economy. So to think that the German, for people to think that somehow Germany is going to bail out all of Europe just isn't realistic, is it?
No, it's not. You have what we call an umbrella, financial umbrella. And if you put countries like Greece, Ireland, Portugal, Spain under this umbrella, these countries are not able anymore to put out the umbrella. So you have countries who receive money and countries who give money. And now it changes. There are more and more countries receiving money, meaning more and more or less and less countries putting money in the European economy. And in the end, there's only Germany. And this won't work.
Well,
everyone knows in Europe that this won't work.
So the thing that humors me a little bit is that these bailout funds, they come up ESFS fund and they have all these funds, they have $500, $600 billion, that those are all kind of promised notes, and 35% of what's supposed to go into that bailout fund is supposed to come from the countries that need the money in the first place.
Right.
So it's just all an illusion. So if you get out your crystal ball for a second, what does the euro in Europe look like in 1, 3, 5 years?
Hold that one thought. We have a caller. Caller, you have a question for our very famous, very illustrious documentary filmmaker, Stephan Lamby. Go ahead.
No, actually, I have a question for the banking guy.
The banking guy whose collar is
The
sticking
city
out?
boy.
Oh, is my?
The other, right there.
You.
Yeah,
Me. All right, go ahead.
Honey, could you fix...
Someone help me here. All right, go ahead.
Please come in and fix his
Yeah,
collar.
go ahead.
Go right ahead, quickly.
Your image.
Go right ahead.
I want to ask him if he can explain fractional reserve lending to us.
Yeah, I can actually.
Stay tuned. Fractional reserve...
Fractional reserve banking.
Coming right up.
Yeah.
Is that how they get oil out of...
No, that's
That's a really good question.
No.
Hold on.
What it is, the Federal Reserve requires that a certain portion of bank.
Fractional reserve lending.
Yeah.
He's giving you the answer. Hold the line.
The Federal Reserve requires, I forget the specific regulation, that a certain portion of a bank's receipts remain, in the bank. That, in other words, that it not be lent out. And the percentage that is required to be maintained, when that percentage is changed, I mean, that's the fraction that it's referred to. So I don't know what the exact percentage is. Literally, the Fed changes it once every 15, once every 20 years. But the idea being that if 10% as a minimum is required to be kept on hand, and that amount is raised to 15%, then that would be a contractionary policy. That would be like the contrast to QE2 or QE3. That's what fractional reserve banking is.
Colin, does that help?
Well, what that's telling me is that banks are lending out money that they don't have. If they're only keeping 10% in reserve, they're lending 90% of the money that they lend out they don't have.
Well, you know,
that's a minimum.
That's what they call a run on the bank. If there's a run on the bank, there's trouble. But listen, thanks for calling. Appreciate it. Call back. Does he got a point? Is that a problem? Is it like 10% cash on hand or 10% liquid assets?
Demand
what are we talking about?
No. It's demand deposits.
Demand deposits.
Right, the amount that people.
But right now, if everyone with their savings accounts and investment all make a run on the bank, there's not going to be enough cash to go around. Is that what he's saying?
You'd have to go back and ask him, but I kind of got that as the gist.
All right. Well, let's bring all this up too, because we have a European in our midst, and he's right in the know. He's interviewed Merkel and a bunch of Greek guys too.
There are millions of people waiting to hear what happens to the euro in Europe.
Stephan, what is going to happen next? Okay, let me take the opposite side of this. Hey, wait a minute. The Greeks, their economy is the size of the economy of the state of Indiana. It's like 1.1% of the U.S. economy. Let's not all get crazy about Greece, but we should be a little bit more concerned about Spain, or if this thing starts spiraling and unraveling. Let's go to
Marty,
your next video.
I'm answering your question.
Please.
Talking about my documentary.
The domino effect. All right, I'm going to hold this up. Can we get Frank? Can we get a shot of this?
This is a documentary we did on the European financial crisis.
Right.
And we started this project 1.5 years ago.
The domino effect, Europe's biggest crises.
Okay. And we did interviews with all these prime ministers and secretaries of finance in Germany, in France, in Italy, in Greece.
Right.
We followed them for 6 months. In the very beginning, 1.5 years ago, we called it, the working title was the domino effect.
Right.
Not knowing what would happen.
Right, okay.
And now we are talking about a domino effect.
Right.
And you're asking me what will happen? I answer, a domino effect. And
Stephan, you're bumming me out.
You're seeing this. I mean, Spain is a victim, and also, of course, some kind of responsibility for what's happening, but also a victim of the domino effect. Italy. So the sooner or later, I'm quite sure Greece will not be able to cope with the situation.
Okay.
Anyone in at least Germany is expecting Greece to leave the Eurozone.
Okay.
And Angela Merkel, Nicolas Sarkozy, now François Hollande in France, they've been preparing their financial industry in order to withstand a bank run in Greece and in Spain.
Yeah.
Very complicated situation in order to make the bank stronger, not to collapse. And I cannot answer whether this will work out or not. It's the first time that within a currency union this is happening. We had to see what was happening in Argentina like 12 years ago. But this was not within a Eurozone, not within a common currency. So we couldn't talk about the domino effect in South America.
Doesn't it
now we have to talk about the domino effect in Europe.
Well, if I could.
And one last word.
Sure.
There are many stones expected to fall within this domino effect. One could be Germany, and the other one could be, I'm sorry to say, the United States.
Ouch.
I'm sorry, what would fall with the United States?
Well, there's stones falling.
Okay. So
Germany is one of the very last stones, and the United States would be maybe the last stone.
So how do you see them lining up? Do you see Greece is one of the first, maybe Spain, maybe Italy?
Right.
Then where? I mean, all that leads to France. France is on the hook for hundreds of billions.
Yeah.
And then the Germans are on the hook to the French.
Exactly.
I mean, but isn't it's an ugly contest. Isn't the U.S. the last one to go?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay.
I think Germany
we're talking about a global financial situation, we are all connected. China, Indonesia, Latin America, North America, we're all connected. So it's only a very small stone, Greece. Everyone in Europe says, well, it's just the Greek economy.
That's what I said. It's the size of Indiana.
But if you...
You're getting a lot of tough calls from Indiana, Marty.
And I would say they have a good Republican governor that's running Indiana a lot better than they're running Greece.
If you want to stay in this picture, the domino effect, it doesn't really matter if it's a big or small stone. What's happening in Italy, what's happening in Spain is very strongly related to what's happening in Greece.
Go ahead.
One of the points I want to make, I know the French banks own a lot of the Greek debt. I think eventually what's going to happen is that you're going to have some of these either public sector institutions or private institutions such as French banks are just going to have to take a huge haircut on the debt that they own, from Greece. And that's going to be a problem. I think the issue that you have to, that you really have to battle is to make sure there isn't a credit contraction. That if these French banks, if they all of a sudden, they stop lending and then the Italians stop lending, then that's really going to lead to depression in Europe. A couple of points that I also wanted to mention. Monty, the new Italian guy, has been pretty successful in implementing change, in Italy in terms of how the government spends money over there, getting concessions from unions, and seem a little hot, Marty.
I am. I'm hot. You missed my opening segment. I'm very upset. It has to be fire.
Concessions from a lot of the public sectors. If you look at the recent election in Greece, the New Democracy folks won. I don't know if you discussed that.
What I understood happened in Greece, and good thing Stephan Lamby is here because he'll be able to correct us and know what's going on. That's Germany's role. But what I understand happened in Greece is that the far right wing, the neo-fascists, gain seats in whatever their parliament is, and then the far right wing, and then the far left wing. I mean, these are guys, bringing out hammer and sickle flags.
Well, the
communists
guys,
and the fascists, and that moderate middle that could find common ground, that could like you say, let's have a haircut, let's work this out, let's move the money around. Everyone gives up and we get through this. No, it's just polarized.
But astonishingly enough, the parties who are forming the new government in Greece are the parties who are responsible for the situation Greece is facing now. I mean, these parties, the Socialist Party is part of the new government, and the Neo-Democratia, the Democrats, the Conservatives, so to say, they join a new coalition, and these both parties have been changing the government for decades. So the Greece, yes, of course, they have been voting for the extreme right and the extreme left, but the government consists out of the same parties
that got us into this mess,
as have been doing it for the last, 20 or 30 years.
So what do you see as the timetable for how things evolve over there? It feels like they're starting to cascade. One of the rating agencies came out and downgraded another 15 banks tonight. Last week it was 17 banks. Half of them were Spanish banks. Doesn't it feel like it's cascading, or is that just a bad Western impression?
Is this the first domino?
No, it's true. It's getting worse and worse, but please don't ask me for a precise timetable. If I would have an answer, I would not sit here with you, but give a press conference in Manhattan. So nobody can say that. All I can say is that we have German parliamentary elections by the end of next year. And talking about Angela Merkel, she is interested not only in a European economy, but in her own power. She will do everything to stay in power.
Which right now is do nothing in terms of contributing money and paying out. Everybody wants Germany to pay money, right? Put money out.
From outside,
right.
Not within Germany.
Right.
And she sees what has been happening to other politicians, other governments in Italy. Berlusconi was swept away. Nicolas Sarkozy, for several reasons, was swept away. Georgios Papandreou
He's a very busy man, Berlusconi. I think he'll be fine.
The Spanish government has been swept away. So that's her situation. It's getting closer and closer.
See, but if
Caller, you've been
America,
listening.
that would be kind of a good thing.
Are we cascading towards the abyss? Can you give us any hope, caller?
Well, I wanted to ask Stephen, what about debt forgiveness? Years ago, in centuries past, rulers and emperors would give debt forgiveness because there's no way
the year of
that we
Jubilee.
can ever pay the debt back. It's impossible. The debt will eat us alive.
All right, good question. Thank you.
I'm going to call American Express and see if they'll do that for me.
Well, hey, now wait a minute. But some of that's going on. Some in the American economy, some of these big banks with these mortgages that they know they're never going to see again, they're forgiving some of it.
My friend
some
from
of the
college-
credit card debt is being renegotiated, cut down on principal. There's that going on. I mean, I think it's almost like in the American economy, hopefully, there's some rational, give and take going on. Look what happened in Wisconsin. I think some of it where you have the private or the public sector unions that they're like, hey, look, we're all hurting here. We can't be paying for these, huge benefit programs and things like that. We all got to, give in a little bit. I think there's some of that going on, and hopefully we'll be able to go through it. What were you saying?
No, I was well. Let's putting Wisconsin on the back burner. For the moment.
Let me just explain, Stephan. Liberals don't want to talk about Wisconsin. You probably don't know this. It's inside politics here.
I'm here to learn. So
Wisconsin, basically, you had all the liberals come out and they wanted to, basically lynch this Republican governor who was just doing the prudent financial thing there and limiting some of the public servants. They took it on the chin. And for the liberals right now, it's not a good time. You think I'm having a bad week. Next week, Obamacare is probably going to get voted down. The financial programs that they've instituted haven't worked. Somehow just taxing and spending doesn't benefit except for the people that you want to benefit. And the stock market just went down. So I can see why you wouldn't want to talk about Wisconsin.
Marty, talking isn't really your strong point. You should probably, just stick to golf.
Okay, so we have a American European talk show here.
Yes.
Sure.
So
we're going from Greece to Wisconsin.
We have a global
to Tommy Boy to Henry Kissinger. Go right ahead.
Point that you're making the point comparing the debt holders of, say, foreign banks of foreign countries to the problems that we have with credit card debt here in the United States.
Yeah.
The difference is that the people that here in the United States, credit was issued kind of willy-nilly to. That's a real technical term, to anybody without a real
if you could
level.
fog a mirror, they would give you a mortgage to a house.
Something along those lines.
Okay.
And also, as well as with credit cards, it's credit cards as well.
Oh.
And there was also, so there's this issue of, bundling and bundling of notes and moral hazard when the people who make the loans aren't necessarily on the hook when the loans go bad. In what goes on in the case with Europe, I think there was just a case where, there's these shared set of economic principles. To a certain extent, risk is being diversified. That it's within the European continent as opposed to just lending, money to Greece.
I know there's a point in here.
I'm making the point. I think I'm doing a pretty good job of it. That
Larry, land this plane, baby. Land
Marty,
this plane. Go ahead.
This plane analogy.
We're gonna crash.
The plane analogy. You never use it with anyone else.
All right, I'm sorry.
You never use it.
Go
No,
ahead.
all right. I'll try to dumb it down for you. I'll make it real. I'll make it real quick.
Give me a bumper sticker, and I'll be a lot better off. Would you please?
Okay.
We have a highly intelligent European here among us.
I thought I was making
bottom line, of course.
Okay.
Would you?
Shared sacrifice
great
received in Europe.
entertainment.
Not the case with individual loans in the United States. That's the point. From the standpoint line.
That was like one sentence.
Are you afraid of what's happening in Europe?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in terms of how it's going to impact the economy of the rest of the world? Is that what you're asking me?
Barack Obama, that's what my impression is very much afraid of it because he's afraid of his re-election.
Well, I think
that's why he's pushing our Angela Merkel to spend more money on the European financial situation.
What does Angela Merkel think of our president, in your opinion? How is he viewed in general in Europe?
Two different questions. Last question. Way well received in Europe, in Germany especially.
France?
He's a hero. In France also. But I can talk more about Germany. Angela Merkel, it's different. She was a close friend of George W. Bush. I did an interview with Bush on her, and they're really friends.
Right.
And she didn't really help him when he came to Berlin, when he wanted to become president.
Obama.
Obama.
He didn't help
Yes.
Obama, yeah.
She didn't help Obama. She didn't really receive him the way she should have. And Obama, I believe, didn't forget it. So there's always tension between Barack Obama and Merkel, and, by the way, François Hollande, the new French president, and Merkel.
Right.
So she's different to.
From what I've seen of the Russian guy, they're not
reception
hitting
in
it off too well either.
It's
Those guys
It's
don't
a
even
body
shake
language
hands with
thing.
them.
What makes it
They're not planning
interesting?
barbecues
What makes
or
it
anything.
interesting for her and for us Germans is that we have the feeling that Barack Obama is expecting Angela Merkel to spend our German money on the European financial problem because your American president wants to become re-elected.
Exactly.
And in his mind, it makes perfect sense.
In his mind, but it's our money. I'm sorry to say.
He's primed the pump here in America, and in his mind, he thinks jobs happen because you print more money and you give it to a bunch of bureaucrats, and they have shovel-ready jobs that don't exist.
This is completely new. It was completely different in the prior administration.
Didn't you
Well, the
did
prior
you
administration did a little bit
Romney
of it.
said, Marty?
Romney?
Yeah.
Yes.
About, well, we can't have more firemen, we can't have more teachers, we can't have more policemen, that it's not just about...
Well, your president said the private sector's doing fine, too.
You know, Dave, I got to tell you, you know, there's certain points that are made, but there are certain other things you really got to question. When Barack Obama said, I've been to all 57 states, he said that in the campaign in 2008. And I hear
there are only 50 states.
I am cognizant of that.
I was going to say.
Do you think it means is more likely that he misspoke for some whatever reason, or is it more likely that he doesn't know the number of states?
Spread the wealth around. I don't know.
The point I'm making, the president's been pretty clear, Marty, that he thinks that job growth isn't where it should be. He said it several times. In this particular case, he was making a contrast between what he saw was the reduction in public sector jobs through cuts in government, as opposed to where we were in the overall private sector.
Every time he gives a speech, he starts a new government program. But anyway, I digress.
I think what our beloved president thinks of making a job is captured in the one company, Solyndra. And the idea is we want to have clean energy.
And First Solar.
And by the way, they just laid off 700 coal miners just today because of his green policies. So he says,
who laid off coal miners?
Arch Coal.
Arch Coal. Yeah, it's on the news.
Okay.
You know, so it's hurting the economy every which way. Not having this pipeline coming in is hurting the economy. But in Barack Obama's mind, he says what we need is solar panels. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to spend $500 million of the taxpayers' money, and we're going to build a nice factory. We're going to employ a bunch of people. We're going to have nice landscaping around the factory. We're going to create jobs because they're going to go in there and they're going to produce solar panels. The only problem is they produce solar panels that cost $6 a panel, and the market is flooded with solar panels that cost $7
It's okay, we put 30% tariffs
but I'm telling you.
Well, Marty, think
they
for
don't.
a moment.
You're an independent. You're a business guy.
Stephen Chu's a pretty smart guy. Won the Nobel Prize, and please don't bring up Obama winning it. He won it for physics. He won it for hard science.
You're already saying that the Nobel Prize is completely political.
He's Secretary of Energy, Steve Chu.
Yeah, he's also the guy that said we need energy prices, oil prices, as high as Europe.
And he's also the guy that doesn't own a freaking car.
$10 a gallon gasoline.
Marty,
he's a smart guy?
He's a brilliant guy, Dave.
Well, then why would he say what we really need to solve the problem is for energy prices to triple?
When a guy like this decides that, or it was based, from what I understand about,
and he took that back once he got in office. But
all right, that point, like you guys.
Please go.
Please go. I can't say a word without you cutting in. If he felt that the technology of Solyndra, and I can't go into the specifics of it, was somewhat, worthy and deserving of a loan guarantee, don't you think there's a reason behind it? Don't you think if a guy like this, wait a second, and because the case has been made, well, you can sell them for $6, but variable cost is $7. So, how do you make money on something like that?
Do I think Chu thought it would all work out? Is that your question?
Do you think if Chu thought it would work out?
Yes.
That there's something more beyond a simple soundbite of saying, well, the cost was
No.
X.
Larry, to answer your question,
Yeah.
I think Barack Obama, I think his administrators all thought that it would work out. I really do.
Stephen Chew's an academic. Let me ask Stephan a question, okay?
Hold on. I think that's the problem. They all think that if the government just gives money away to policies that they want to have, it's going to work out. That's the problem. Because it's not the real world.
Let me ask Stephan a question, okay? So here's the question. My impression is that there's a lot of pressure to print more money in Europe. And in the meeting this last week, they said, no, we're not going to print any more money. Well, and they've been very resistant. And every time it kind of gets to Merkel's desk, she says, no, we're not going to print. Do you think that the Germans are hypersensitive to what happened with Weimar and that affects their mentality?
Of course. We have had very a link between the economic situation and the political situation after 1929. Actually, this started in the United States, Black Friday, and we felt the effect in Europe. And the effect was that banks collapsed. We had a bank run in Germany, and in the end, we had more extremist parties like the Nazis coming up.
Does this vaguely sound like what's going on in Greek right now? Because you had the extreme. You had the Nazis on one side, and you had the communists on the other. People get polarized and they get scared. And then all of a sudden the Catholics have to decide.
We're not talking only about a financial situation. We are also talking about a very strong political situation.
Very strong. Yeah. There are people fighting on TV.
And the political landscape in Europe could change. And the idea of the euro 10 or 12 years ago was to have a united Europe.
Right.
Now, the same idea, the same currency, could lead to the effect that we will be torn apart because the Greeks are getting mad on us Germans. The French are getting more and more have bad feelings on us Germans. The Germans, there's some tabloid papers addressing the Greeks always as the lazy Europeans. So we have a different language.
Have you seen the cartoon? Have you seen the cartoons of Merkel in the Nazi uniforms in Greece?
Okay, this is something between sad and funny.
But isn't the mistake that they're making over there is that they're nationalizing the debt? So they're taking all this bad debt that the banks have on their books and nationalizing it. I mean, Iceland did not do that. Iceland said, you know what? Go declare bankruptcy, go restructure your debt. We're not going to take it on, we're not going to nationalize it. And guess what? They have one of the most, their economy is recovering quicker than most of the economies over there. Nationalizing the debt seems to me to be the big problem.
Is that what Japan has done and that's led to a decade of stagnation?
Oh, nationalizing the debt?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on that. I mean, I think that's what they did.
I mean, their debt is like 200% of their economy, something like that?
No, it is. It's 180%, but they don't rely on any outside financing. In other words, the Japanese people save so much money, they refinance their own debt internally.
But
it does stagnate
Iceland is not part of the Eurozone, so we don't have a danger of the so-called domino effect.
Right.
That's why Germany helps Greek. It's not because they're brothers and sisters down there in the southern of Europe. It's because of the domino effect.
Can they stop it, though?
It's some kind of egoism. I mean, I can understand it, why we help them. But it's not because we want to help them, but because we must help them.
Yeah.
So does this lead to social unrest over there?
To social unrest? You've been asking me a very difficult question on the schedule, how it's going on. Social unrest.
This is a great opportunity for me to pick your brain. And I will watch these if you let me take a moment.
We have growing poverty in Greek. No wonder why.
So you can't retire at age 50 anymore if you're a hairdresser. Huh?
There was a very important situation just last Sunday. If Greek would have elected for the radical left,
the Syriza,
there would be high chances that Greek would have been forced to leave the Eurozone. And this would have, I'm quite sure, led to social unrest, yes.
Yeah, the guy said, Alex, I forget his last name, the guy that they weren't going to leave the Eurozone, but they were going to fight the austerity initiative.
Renegotiate.
I don't know how, renegotiate. I don't know how.
And Angela Merkel said,
I don't know how that, I don't know ultimately that would have worked out, but something I think would have had to have
you would have had the consequences within the national politics in Germany and France and Netherlands and Finland and so on, because we cannot convince, the government in Germany, for example, cannot convince our voters, our members of parliament anymore to send money to Greece if they are not accepting the austerity measures.
shouldn't have joined the euro.
As simple as that.
That's what the British are saying.
And as I said 10 minutes before, Angela Merkel wants to be re-elected next year.
Yeah.
How many, on that point, this is a question for the table, how many democratically elected leaders in Europe have won re-election in the past 2 years? How many? I know the answer.
I don't think.
0. The French are out.
Yeah.
The Italians got turned over. The Greeks, forget about it.
No more
They're
bunga
like
bunga
resigning.
parties.
No more bunga. I mean, Merkel is seeing, talk about dominoes falling. She's saying, you know, this the Super 20 conferences and stuff, you got to, you know, reintroduce yourself to everyone. Except for in Russia. Right, if you can call that a democratically elected, that guy gets reelected and he's got it set up, you know, for years. Can I just do a lightning round with you really quick?
Go ahead.
I want to do a lightning round with you. Okay, we talked about the domino effect. Basically, Europe's going under. It's going to be one step at a time. It's eventually going to hit us. My advice, buy a shotgun. You talk about Merkel. You said she, okay, here comes. All right, hold on. We're in the lightning round. Okay, Merkel, you met her. Fun at parties? Not so much?
Fun?
Fun, you know, fun.
She doesn't like her
on the head,
shoulders rubbed, does she? When George Bush
Is she a party animal behind the scenes?
She's big.
I know you're a married man, but I want to know.
But you can dump beer on her
Angela
and she's
Merkel
okay.
is fun when the cameras are switched off.
I see. What about Henry Kissinger? Does he get crazy a little bit? I'll take that as a no. Okay,
pretty stiff,
City Boy, that's the one.
He was big fun.
He was big fun. This guy's nothing but fun. You got to see the video. Henry Kissinger, he's okay. When he asked Henry Kissinger about his dating life, I'm telling you, it's worth getting the.
Henry's been trying to get on the show for about 2 years or something.
Yeah, he lives in Kent, Marty.
No, we've said no.
Is power really the greatest aphrodisiac, Henry? Yes, I think so. It could be my body. Okay, the revolt against Stasi. Stasi. Okay, the day German Secret Service was storming. Okay, that's good. This is good. We can all agree on this.
They're all
Gestapo. They got to go.
It's a great show for all anti-communists.
Perfect.
Like
was
you.
there like a Born Identity guy in this that, you know, killed everyone and got chased? No car scenes, anything like that?
Probably wouldn't be well received at the White House.
Okay. The Queen of Africa.
What do you say?
The long voyage of the Graf Gotzen.
That was on a ship that was actually built in northern Germany for a German colony in the middle of Africa.
Okay.
But there's no river from the coast to the heart of Africa.
Ouch.
So how did you get in 1913 a ship from northern Germany to the Lake Tanganyika in the middle of Africa? The answer is on this documentary.
This is a documentary about some stupid German ship that no one cares about. Let's move ahead. Now, a tsunami.
How do you treat my film? These are all very expensive.
Give me that back. That's one that I have to study. That's a good one. I'm sorry, I minimized it.
Please, some kind of respect for this DVD.
I'm sorry. Okay, My Tsunami, the disaster
It's
via
very
Skype.
interesting. It's a worldwide, I believe, worldwide first documentary built only on Skype interviews.
Wow.
So this was realized only 3 weeks after the tsunami.
This is the Fukushima one you're from?
Yeah.
The one in Japan,
And we did interviews with people within the catastrophe.
Right.
Right after it had happened.
How long do these take to produce, each one?
The Kissinger, 3 years. The My Tsunami, 3
3
weeks.
minutes.
Really?
And
you flip them on our table, Marty.
Yeah, that's
all right.
3 years of work.
He's my cousin. I can poke fun. I'm going to read the African
He did that
Queen.
with me when we were 5 years old, so I'm not astonished. I know this guy.
It's sibling rivalry with an overlay of a whole American-European thing. It goes back to Loretta and Gilla, I think.
True.
You know, they would always get good grades, and I was always throwing dirt balls at cars.
So what are your next?
That explains it more.
No, what's that?
That explains it.
It explains a lot. You know, you got to know Loretta and Gilla. Gilla was very, you know, Kirschen, Kuschen, and Kirscher. How do you say it? And but you know, anyways, okay. Life and Death of Michael Jackson. Now you're talking. What do you know about this?
It was on the dark side of his life.
Ooh.
Let's watch it.
Yeah, let's watch it.
What are the next? What are your next big projects you're working on?
Yeah.
We are following the European financial crisis.
Yeah.
It's a never-ending story, and I'm sorry to say we're making money over it.
No,
We as journalists.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Sorry,
an
Carl,
exciting time for us.
You still there?
We had an exciting time when the German wall fell down. We had an exciting time with
hold on.
911, and now we have exciting time with what's happening in
So you
Europe.
guys thrive on tragedy. Is that fair?
You live in interesting
I'm
times.
a
If it
journalist.
bleeds, it leads.
Like doctors making money with people who have
Crisis is a horrible
who are
thing to
sick.
waste.
We're making money. That's my profession.
People slow
with
down in car
catastrophes.
accidents. All right, caller, you have a question for Stephan Lamby, award-winning European, German documentary filmmaker.
Stephan, I'd like to know if you think that money can be created debt-free at no interest. I mean, think about, and spend that money into existence. So what do you think of the idea of creating money debt-free at no interest?
All right, excellent question. Answer
Very
that
good,
very ethereal question, proper word usage, look it up. Ethereal question about that, and do it in about 30 seconds because we got to close.
I have to admit, you have great viewers, great callers,
Well,
great questions.
Very, hey, this is no slouch of it. This is.
I have no answer.
You have no answer. Well, I'll tell you, I have an answer. You can't create money. Right now, every dollar that's spent by the United States government, 42 cents of it is created by debt. This always happens. Okay, caller, quick question. Three. Let's go. Eins.
First of all, our gross domestic product has just gone to hell in a handbasket. I'll tell you.
Okay, we got to rush. Give me your second one.
Oil, why doesn't Biden and Obama just flood the market with domestic oil and at the same time tax incentives for alternative energy? The third thing is, how can this administration stand back and watch Syria? I'll tell you, it's disgusting. Anyway, take care and stay cool.
Hey, you got to call earlier. Those are good questions. We never really even did get to Syria because that's where our buddies from Russia are landing planes in there and everything else.
Yeah, he's trying to put pressure. That was just done at the G20 summit in Cabo.
Yeah. Good luck with that. We got no pressure. We can't even.
Can we get Stephan back on? We got a ton of questions.
Get him back on.
We got to talk about exit strategy out of Afghanistan.
He's staying in my house. I can take his shoes. He can't walk around. He'll be right here. Stephan Lamby, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
I really appreciate you coming in and giving us a perspective. All kidding aside, I love all your documentaries. You know what I do? I go on YouTube. But they're not all at once. You got to see the first half, second half, third half.
Yeah, you should know. You should know. Most of them are on YouTube.
They are on YouTube. So just YouTube Stephan Lamby because we are commercial-free public access cable. So we're not selling anything here except really good ideas.
Except the truth, Marty.
Except the truth. Yeah. So Larry Ditkoff, want to thank you very much for your perspective.
Always a pleasure, Marty.
Good thing you got your collar straightened out. That's a good thing.
No pink tie though.
And you got your your right-wing golf shirt under your shirt, so you don't have to worry about it.
Live free or die.
Stephan, again, I appreciate it. Next week we're going to have a rerun. There's something about a guy with a bunch of tattoos on his head, and then there's another rerun. But they're going to be really good. But we'll be back in July with a new program, Marty Heiser Show, where you always get
the truth.
My warped perspective of what I think the truth is. But it's my show. What are you going to do? We'll see you next week. Thank you.